Welcome to the 187th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome. It's been a while, but today I have my own registered dietitian back, Addie Dulaney Majnaric. Welcome, Addie.
Hello, everyone.
So, Addie is a part of the practice. She lives in Atlanta, so we don't, she gets down about quarterly, maybe a little bit more. And so you're headed down next week. And I'm anxious for you to see the garden. Everything's looking good. We're finally getting some cool weather. So, looks like a real little garden and a couple of our raised beds with Swiss chard and Napa cabbage and broccoli and peppers, tomatoes. We got some eggplants hanging on the tower garden. Cilantro growing in the tower garden, basil growing in the raised beds. We harvested our sweet potatoes, so we have a bucket of those. Got some parsley going, so it's starting to look like a little farm again for our fall growing season in Florida. So that's exciting. We, have some papayas on the tree, so we have 4 or 5 of those going. I probably eat at least 1 or 2 papayas a week. The dogs love papaya. It's actually very good for dogs' digestive systems. And so in the morning when I'm preparing my fruit bowl, they get some on their kibble along with their veggies. So we go through a lot of papaya. Be glad to get some off our own trees. And we have our own very first baby rose apple coming on our rose apple tree. It's about the size of a pea right now, so we're protecting it, and hopefully it'll blossom into our first apple. So that's all good. So I can't wait for you to see the backyard garden.
Yeah, that'll be very cool.
Yeah. So we have exciting news. I'm doing the Sacramento, California International Marathon the first week of December with Michael. And then we'll start our ultra training again because you're going to join us, or we're going to join you outside of Atlanta at the Fort Yargo State Park for the Thrill in the Hills.
Yeah, my first ultra. I've done several halves and a whole marathon. Haven't tapped into the Ironman thing like you people. But yeah, so it'll 50K. I think it's February 13th that weekend. So it's only about an hour north of Atlanta. So it'll be lots of fun. Hopefully we won't get lost up there.
Yeah, it's amazing. You think of Atlanta being so urban, but you live about 20 minutes outside of downtown and right on a trail that you can do trail running. So I'm quite jealous. Of course, you live in a very hilly neighborhood. Uh-huh. So you're getting lots of hill training in, just kind of cheating a little bit. But I'm down here on the flats, training on my little overpass bridges and Yeah, I know. Try not to be bitter. And I have to use the treadmill for my hill repeats. And then our strength and conditioning coach is giving us workouts to increase our strength. So, yes, Nathan Majnaric. So how's your strength? He gives us similar workouts. You're a little different than I am. We're doing 3. You're doing 3 a week?
Yeah, 3 a week. And then one of those days since I started training, I'm running and lifting. I think you do that on most of your lift days.
Yeah, I run in the morning and lift in the evening on Monday and Wednesday, and then on Friday I swim in the morning, so I lift in the evening. It's funny because I think of swimming day as my rest day, but the coach makes us do a lot of kicking. So I'm, it's like, I'm used to, but it's different muscles, and it's all good. Kicking, we do, today we did some on the wall, sprint kicking and then sprint 25 yards. So that was good, for freestyle kick, some dolphin kick for the butterfly and, backstroke kick. So it all works, and then, breaststroke kick. So it all works different muscles, and it's great for mobility.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way to tag in some cross training that's still getting your cardio in. And then, like we've both discussed, even when we're not really feeling up to the weight training, it definitely makes you feel a lot better. I mean, you get sore, obviously, but just mobility-wise, it helps a ton, especially when we're adding on the miles.
Oh, absolutely. We both have had some Achilles issues over the years. Tight calves, and so he's incorporated a bunch of different kinds of toe raises for us to get those. And of course, we're I don't know if you're doing your mobility their second page as much as I need to. But we have a whole set of mobility that I try to do those on Tuesday and Thursday where, some foam rolling, stretching, and range of motion. I've got back into trying the front and the side split for hip mobility. So I know, so I'm working on that. I was never an acrobat. It's kind of funny that at my age I am trying to get these splits down. But reading a lot, Nathan's been talking a lot about hip mobility and hip flexion and tightness, and from sitting all day long. So I think that's really, really good, since we're going to bump up the miles, is to also bump up the mobility and then the strength training. So very, very cool.
It's all good. It's also a nice way to keep us from packing on the holiday pounds, training for something. So fun tip for everyone. If you're going to be moving through this eating season, plan a race right afterwards, and it keeps your activity up.
Right, and that's really good. So, the next thing's coming up is Thanksgiving and the turkey trots. So, so you don't have to, just signing up for one keeps you honest. It's a great family tradition to start. We don't usually have a formal turkey trot that we participate in, but we have a local Dulaney turkey trot that we take all the furry animals and do a trot around the neighborhood. But yeah, it's eating season, and it started with Halloween. And, people, I remember, it's always buy the candy that you want to keep or you want to have around, your favorite type of bars. Being plant-based and vegan, that really pretty much takes that down a lot, because there aren't many vegan type chocolates out there, especially the ones that are traditionally put, the little Snickers and the little Milky Ways and all those kind of things. And I think people kind of get fooled by that a little bit, that those little snack candies can really pack on the pounds and pack in the fat.
Yeah, the fun size packaging is quite deceiving, because we all know no one has just one fun size Snickers. You end up eating the worth of a gigantic Snickers. So, just being aware of, how you're setting yourself up for success through this holiday season, and the options that you're putting in your house, even if they're, quote unquote, like they were for Halloween, you're probably going to be more susceptible to eat them as well.
Right, and they're not plant-based. They're not vegan. No, if you look on the ingredients label, if something has milk in it and dairy in it, it has to be highlighted in the last line. So you can, pretty much turn it over and be perfectly disappointed at that point that none of these standard chocolate bars are vegan. So, that kind of puts them out of. If you're truly plant-based and trying to stay with that, that's, something that you can't do. Obviously, some of the sugary things are there as well and can be just as much of a problem. But, knowing that, I had a lady in yesterday, and she said, well, she has occasional chocolate. Is that okay? And it's like, well, what do you mean by occasional? And then what do you mean by chocolate? And then it turned in, it's like, well, okay, plant fats, obviously dairy, if you have inflammation going on, it doesn't take much dairy to get this inflammatory reaction going. So even dairy in some of these little chocolate bars can set people off. And then if people have high cholesterol, the fats in these bars, even if they're plant fats, can be turned into cholesterol.
Mm-hmm. And with a lot of these, candies as well, there's chocolate, it's been proven to be healthy. It's a natural antioxidant. Well, the actual percentage of high quality cocoa or cacao within most commercial chocolates, like we're saying, already non-vegan, but the percentage of chocolate is super low as well. So you're getting a higher amount of fillers by the form of cheap fats, cheap oils, cheap processed sugar, the cheapest kind of chocolate they can find, and then filling it then with milk too. So really tiny percentage of actual chocolate. So, when you're thinking too, you're not even really getting what you think you're paying for.
And most people are attracted to the fillers, not really the cacao.
And that's what gets you addicted to it.
Yes. And, and don't be fooled for any stretch of the imagination that the companies don't realize that. So beware.
Yeah,
so we want to.
Sister paid the big bucks to get you to want to buy more. So just know, uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean, when I was little, all those things, they didn't come in the giant bags of people, so now it starts, geez, in August, they start selling these giant bags that are on the shelves, and, Walmart has rows lined with this stuff, and it continues, and then it goes on sale, and then people buy more, and it can really be into trouble. But that's gone, and hopefully you took that someplace and eliminated it. And maybe it was even better. Maybe you bought Lara bars or little Cliff bars or something, or but nevertheless, moving on to Thanksgiving, we'd like to start talking a little bit about how to get through Thanksgiving, how to make it a great holiday as far as your food goes, and work your way into the holidays, because it becomes one party after another. And you want to participate, and we want you to participate, and we want you to have a good time, but we also want you to stay healthy.
Right. And I think the main thing around these holiday seasons, especially baking season, coming up, starting now, that I tell a lot of people is, yes, we're in baking season, but you do not need, if you have a household of 2, or maybe you're living by yourself, you don't need to go through and bake these large recipes and just have them sitting on your counter, because, willpower being what it is, you're going to eat more of them than probably what you should. So waiting for those big, larger recipes to be made closer to celebrations where you're bringing them where they can be shared among other people. Also looking for alternatives that are giving you the taste that you're looking for, but are a little bit on the healthier side. And, how much of that sugar or sweetener do you really need in those recipes? And backing it down, using more unprocessed ingredients, all these little changes to get us through the holidays a little bit better than maybe we did last year.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line, is if you can do a little bit better today than you did yesterday, a little bit better this year than you did last year, it's all a great transition. And I guess since we're starting about talking about baking, there are a lot of recipes out there for pumpkin breads, gingerbreads, zucchini breads, and they have oil in them. You can take the oil out and substitute in the flax egg or chia seeds, applesauce, and they work out just fine. And like Addie said, when you're putting fruit, dates, raisins in these things, you can back down on the sugar that's called for, substitute in maple syrups, a little bit better. At least it has some, vitamins, some minerals in it. And just back it down, because if as you make these recipes over and over and you back down the sugar, you become very, you start to taste the other flavors, and they are still very, very good.
Definitely see some taste bud turnover without the need. And then it also helps you, we also talk about the holiday detox that everybody, tries to get on, especially, New Year's hits. And those cravings are a real thing. If you're exposing your gut flora as well as your taste buds, as well as those receptors and your pleasure receptors in your brain to these high sugar, high fat foods all through the holidays, it makes those New Year's resolutions or health goals to start to eat a little bit, quote unquote, cleaner, a little bit more difficult, because you've been exposed to all these hypersaturated flavors. So if we can just back it down a little bit through the holidays, it still tastes great, and it's not getting you, quote unquote, addicted to these types of foods.
Yeah. And, I've always, and of course I didn't realize it for a long time, but I'm very sensitive to oils. Oil over the years has given me indigestion. I had to take medication for it. And when I quit using oil, then the indigestion went away. And it was funny, over the holiday season in our house was always a time of baking. And even when we were vegan, we were still baking and using oil up, early on, and I would still get indigestion. And even when we, even progressed and used some of these nut crust and nut-based things, I still would have issues with it. So we've backed that down from nut crust to oatmeal, oat flour crust, using, some dates and fruit sweeteners to make crust like that, or not even using a crust. Part of the pumpkin pie is all about the pumpkin. For the most part. And, so a little oat crust or no crust, and even, making little, ramekins of the pumpkin part can be a great dessert. You can, top those with raisins and make them pretty, but, you can make the pie a lot without the crust even sometimes. And, we do a great, there's several different twists on pumpkin pie with silken tofu and various things that you can so-called fool anybody with a great pumpkin pie and still be plant-based and not have to use all the traditional sugar and milk that they, I know years past they used condensed milk, way back in, as well as, I guess you also have to be careful. They sell the pumpkin pie filling in the cans as opposed to just pumpkin.
Yeah.
And those, the reason why they taste so good is because they're loaded with sugar and loaded with other stuff besides pumpkin.
I definitely read those labels because, especially if you're walking through the baking aisle, they have made several products that can either, increase that sweetness or decrease your baking time. But a lot of those things have increased oil, increased sugar, the pre-made baking blends of things versus, making from good old scratch. It takes your control out of the ingredients you can use. So just take just a teeny bit more time to blend your flours and things like that on your own, but then you're in more control of what you're actually making.
Yeah, and you have to beware. One of the marketing ploys is, well, if you don't use white flour, then people use almond meal or other nut meals or different. These are all blended. From a nut into flour, so it's high calorie dense things. So just because people say, "Oh, flour is bad," well, yes, white flour is bad, but so are these other things. So it's not like you went from white flour to a health food by using almond flour or whatever kind of flour. And then it comes down to the parties, I guess, is the parties and the family gatherings and being part of the tribe. The original tribe was the Pilgrims and the Indians, right? And they, I remember watching Pocahontas with you, the Pocahontas movie, over and over and over and over. But, people get together, share food, share recipes, share their goods. And you want to be part of a tribe. And so it can be difficult at the holiday season. How do you get along? One of the things that I have just seen is that Whole Foods is offering to make a vegan dinner for people that they can purchase and as a takeout. It's just like, places make turkeys. Well, they will make all the fixings. And you can, so pick those up and then take them to your local gathering so you can have a complete Thanksgiving meal or have your complete Thanksgiving meal there. Mama Says, if you have not heard of that company, MAMA, capital SEZZ.com, is offering a Thanksgiving bundle so that you can get some of their products and share those. Holiday bundle. Yeah, I said holiday bundle.
Repurpose that right through.
And it go ahead. What it was called again?
The Healthy Holiday Bundle.
Okay, so that works to be able to have something if you don't necessarily usually prepare things.
Right, or if you are maybe the only one going to someone else's home that is eating this way, it makes a nice option to have something that maybe you don't have to prepare this whole meal just for one person, just for two people. You can bring food options that are helping you reach optimal health and wellness, but you're still participating in the holiday traditions, getting to converse with friends and family, but don't have to sacrifice on your health.
Yeah, and I think the best way to get around all this, as far as when you're going into either a person's home or perhaps you're having family in, is just leave the discussion of why you're doing what you're doing out of it, especially for the holidays and parties. If someone asks questions, give the bare minimal answer and try to hold yourself from going into the full forks over knives lecture on why you should be plant-based. Just, blow it off as, you're just, eating this way, trying to be a little healthy, looking to get more vegetables in, and, no big deal. And, don't try to convince everybody in the room that they should be plant-based, especially on the, these holidays.
Yeah, and I think one of the best ways, I just discussed this with one of our members this week, is, when someone asks or starts to give their opinion or their, expert nutrition advice, because, we're all experts, on how you're eating, I think the best response is, well, that's nice, but this is what I'm doing and this is what's working for me with my health goals. And I am very intentional about wanting to live, healthy for myself and have a good quality of life. And this is working for me. And I don't think anyone that cares about you will argue with that. So just kind of make it very much about yourself. You're not putting this on anyone, not passing judgment. This is just something that's working for you. Again, not hiding what you're doing, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But we do know, especially around the holidays, food can be a touchy subject. So just making it more about you and your personal choices and your health versus projecting onto others.
Yes, by this time in people's life, plant-based nutrition, veganism is out there enough that most people have heard of the word and have their own opinion about it. And they're not really looking to, for health advice, especially over the holidays, and would probably like to ignore it. So it's best just to kind of leave it alone. But, when we go to change, if you're new to plant-based, if this is your first Thanksgiving as, eating plant-based, it can be very tough and very challenging and very anxiety provoking, because the reality of it is we all want to be part of a tribe. We all want to be part of a group, a part of a team, whether it's your family or your neighbors or your church or, a card club or sports groups, political party. We all want to be part of a team. And, unfortunately, in today's society, we tend to be polarized. It's either your team or my team. And it's not, we don't cross the aisle, so to speak, very often between teams, whether it's political parties or paleo and veganism. And you want to fit in, and you don't want to be ostracized from your, say if it's your family or a close group of friends. You don't necessarily want to be ostracized for them because of your views on what you deem as a healthy way to eat. On the other hand, so you can feel that, well, they don't like me because I'm plant-based and they just, pick on me. But the other side of the coin is what you actually bring to the table. So you may be plant-based, but if you bring other things to the tribe that people deem valuable, then they're not going to mind so much that you're eating, a little bit weird. I think looking at the broader picture, what, you can kind of sit back and what is your tribe, and, how have you fit into that group over the years? What's been your role? What have you brought to the table for that group? What has that group brought to the table for you that makes you fit in and that makes you want to be part of that tribe? And I was actually thinking this morning about my mom, Addie's grandmother, and Nuni, yeah, she's a very unique individual, 85 years young. And just to kind of mention her activity schedule this week, she just got over a bronchitis, but she came back in full force. So Tuesday was Zumba, Wednesday was yoga, Thursday was golf, Friday is nutrition class, Saturday and Sunday are golf again in the movies. So, I mean, she's obviously, you can see at 85, very much, out there. And, she started out, her parents are both Italian immigrants, and they had a small bar in a coal mining town, and very, very, very small in West Virginia. And she became a majorette. And so she was hanging out with kids that weren't from that area, that she was from that small, but she had friends in both places, and she brought, her happiness and positive go for it spirit back then to being a majorette, but she also brought that same positive experience, back into the bar and the people that were there and interacting with them. And it's continued with her over the years. I've watched whether, she's part of a golf league or a church league or whatever, she's always a little bit different. She's probably a little bit more outgoing. My mom always dresses the part. She never goes to an event that she's not dressed, whether it's golden blue at West Virginia or Steelers outfit or Zumba outfit or golf outfit. So
she worked before most women were working. She wasn't, and whether, no good or bad or different. But, some criticism came upon her for that, but she kind of always has stayed in her own lane. She's, she's the life of the party. She's not someone who's, sit back and reserved. She brought a lot to her marriage, a lot to your family. She wasn't, just kind of obedient following the course that someone else laid ahead of her. She kind of blazed her own trail and embraced it and never really worried about, whatever situation she comes into fitting into that situation, but more, I'm just going to bring a little bit of my own pizzazz. And if they like it, that's great. And if not, I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think that's really a good way to look at it as far as these tribes go, as far as being plant-based. You're walking into a room that majority of people are not plant-based. They may or may not have heard of it. They probably don't want to hear about it. But that doesn't mean you can't be part of that tribe. That just means that, you're your own person. And what other qualities do you have? You have some other quality besides eating. I heard a friend of mine's husband said one time that all you people do is talk about food. But the reality of it is everybody talks about food. We're just talking about a different kind of food, but, what else do you bring to the table? If you're in a card group that, there's something that you always have in common with people besides just the food. So look to those other things that you have in common with them and the other qualities that they bring to the table. And it makes it much easier to have your differences, We all want to be unique, yet we all want to be the same. It's the lifelong struggle. Everybody wants to blaze their own path, but yet be a part of a group. And plant-based nutrition is no different. And so you just have to keep true to yourself, and find out how you can do it. Whether it's bring your own food, call ahead if you're going out, say, "Can I get this or that?" Host your own dinner party. There's lots of ways out there, and we'll keep mentioning, what we eat. And, we kind of stalled out on desserts and things early on, but I think that's what scares people, though. They want to be able to have the treats as well on the holidays. But, we obviously don't do a turkey, but we have our tables full of different vegetables that we, really enjoy and are traditions for us.
Yeah, besides the turkey, which we really didn't do a whole lot of turkey thing growing up, but besides that, we have all of the same food, titles that we have always had. We've just adjusted them to make them a little healthier, or if there was an animal product in there, swapping it out for a plant-based substitute.
Yeah. The menu hasn't changed other than the animal part. So the rest of the stuff that we have, and it's probably even better. It really is better because, again, it's less greasy. You can because it's much more less calorie dense.
You can eat more.
You can eat more. So it's great.
Pull out the stretchy pants.
So, again, we do pretty much the same table we've always done in many years past, but it's plant-based. So I think if the readers or listeners, I guess, have some interest, we do a newsletter once monthly for anyone that wants to sign up for our newsletter. If you go to drdulaney.com, DOCTORDULANEY.com. you can sign up for our newsletter. And I think what this year we'll share what we're doing for Thanksgiving and some recipes. And so you can kind of join in.
Right. And then, we typically do a very similar meal for Thanksgiving that we do for Christmas Day. So you'll have it for then. And then I think, as well as once we get into December, I'll be putting out another newsletter in addition to the regular one that you would get monthly if you're signed up. That will contain some baking tips, substitutions, ways to keep things healthy, just a few dietitian tips from our household baker. It's the role I've taken on. So that'll be available to you too if you go ahead and sign up.
Yes, just fabulous. So that'll be a great idea. Like we talked about early on, it's very much important to keep moving during the holidays and every day, because we know that, when you exercise and then you stop, you lose that fitness pretty quick. And so it's always harder to start back up. When you're not exercising, your metabolism goes down. You lose mobility, and there's a lot of evidence that, as far as the protective roles in preventing cancer, preventing the recurrence of cancer, that if you stop exercising for a period, you lose a lot of that protectiveness. So it's really, really important that, you continue your exercise program. And I really do like the idea of people having a goal, whether it's a goal race, something out there that you want to train for, because it's, it really does motivate you.
And I think, as we move through this season of many folks might be traveling and things like that, and you're just trying this, health and wellness lifestyle that you've adopted for yourself, it's just kind of getting started. I always suggest to people too, maybe when you're traveling, it doesn't look like, your structured hour at the gym that you get in at home when you have a very nice routine set up for yourself, but just something to keep that fresh habit in your mind, especially when we're traveling. Keep some kind of a routine. It helps with those health goals. It helps with your overall health. And it honestly helps you with, through this eating season or travel season, just to maintain some steady state with your exercise routine. So yeah, maybe it's not, like I said, the full hour or, the exact run that you would be doing at home, but trying to get in something that is attainable, that you can check off, that's a positive way to start your day, is better than nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, there are streakers in running that are part of the, not streakers without their clothes on, but streakers that how many days consecutively they've run. I'm getting an eye roll here. But, I think that it's good that they set it's like, I'm going to commit to doing exercise. I'm going to commit to running every day, at least a mile, a lot of these people. So they get at least that mile in. And you may say, well, that's not really worth putting your shoes on if it's just a mile or whatever, but it keeps you in the habit. And so even if it's a little bit, 10, 15 minutes, you go through a stretching calisthenics, quick workout. And with our members, we have monthly challenges. So every week we do something different. And so they're learning a routine that they can, incorporate into their daily training with different movements. So, even if you go through some of this, it really helps to maintain the habit by doing something every day and continuing it. So I think that's kind of a good place to kind of jump off for a while. I think we'll continue over the holidays to keep Addie on board here to keep us all straight. Addie also is in charge, along with Nathan, of designing our workouts for the membership, and our monthly wellness challenges. We feel that our members are, they're special people. And they're looking, to put that extra effort in to maintain their health and wellness and to live as well as they can for as long as they can. And that's all about not only eating well, eating plant-based, eating as many antioxidants and nutrients as you can get, but also moving. And it's such a pleasure to work with people that really want to, get their bodies in the best shape and keep their bodies in the best shape that they possibly can. And if you have some interest in that, or you're just not getting that from your healthcare provider, because I think, in this day and age, Regular doctors that you just go for. There's not that much sickness, and as far as infections, our water's clean. People aren't getting too many of those. We get the common colds and flus, but lifestyle disease is where it's at, and just a quarterly visit with your doctor is not, that doesn't address these other things, doesn't necessarily get you on the best path of health and prevention. So if you have some interest in, you want to be one of those people that live well until you don't, exercise, have exercise goals, fitness goals, as well as nutritional goals. Look us up. We have a lot of different things to choose from online as well as, in person, and we'd love to work with you.
Yeah, and it's been a pretty cool past couple of months. We've had several members that we've helped either specifically with the training as well as nutrition, or just sports nutrition that coordinates with their training and or competition, that have competed in CrossFit competitions, whether that be individual or team, in their local areas, or in half marathons. We have one member coming up this weekend who's doing a half. And then we had one last month, her first full half. So it's just been really great to see people, find activities that they love, because just like you need to love the food you eat, because we do a lot of a huge portion of our lives we're eating, finding activities that you love is going to make that part of your health and wellness so much more sustainable too. So that's been a really big joy, I think, just this fall even. So
get out and move, eat well, choose well, stay on the wagon. And thank you for listening. And Addie, I'll look forward to seeing you in person next week.
Yep, I'll see you all in the office next Thursday.
All right. Have a good week, y'all. Bye-bye.